Yo, what's going on guys? It's Cheddar back again for another video, and I just want to say I'm really excited to make this one because I'm going to be going over some of the games which got me to top 600 in the world right before the season end. Season end, as you can see, is in about like 14 hours. Before the video gets started, I'd like to say a few things. For obvious reasons, what better way to start than to say thanks to everyone who supported me after my CWA appearance. I honestly couldn't have expected such a warm welcome onto the channel considering how toxic my deck even was. This kind of ties into why my only upload, yes I know I don't upload, had such loud game sound. I'm truly grateful that you guys didn't hate my voice like I did at that moment in time. I seriously could not reinstate that any more than I possibly can at the moment. And it was such a pleasure being on Clash of Ash. So hopefully maybe I'll have another chance to go on again. Secondly, I want to say I'm going to begin doing live ladder rather than replays, but this will probably have to be a next season thing because I might just stop playing for this season and just take my top 800 or something finish. Finally, to the Pekka community that watches my videos, sorry. I have begun writing and planning my first ever episode of the series, The Ultimate Guide to Pekka Bridgespam. And yes, I'm going to cover everything there is to know about that deck. Like everything I know, at least there is to know about that deck. Until I upload that video though, I could do grand challenges, ladder, I could do top ladder or mid ladder. Whatever you guys want to see, just let me know in the comments. But without wasting time, let's get into the first match against Jules. Alright, so coming into the first game against Jules, who is, I don't know. I don't know what his deck was obviously, so I just went for a van at the back. Seeing that he played Drill, I thought the best play would be to go Ewiz rather than Battle Ram, just in case if he had Fireball I could get punished really hard just off the opening sequence. Seeing the Ghost, it made me a bit more relieved, because now I knew it was the new Cannon Cart deck, so I decided to go for a bit of split lane pressure, just to put him in like not really, I don't want to say make him nervous, but like, I wanted to put him in a situation where he'd be kind of cramped up, I guess you could say. Now, on this Cannon Cart, I chose to go for the Pekka because the Fireball would give me no chance to counter push and give his Magic Archer value, and going for a Magic Archer on my own meant I'd be down just 4 elixir pretty much. Now this bandit was played slightly late on my end, but it's because I wanted to see if he'd go for a Magic Archer at Ewiz, so that I could just Fireball it rather than going for the bandit, and obviously them not playing it out of the bandit range. Now, I could either go Ewiz on top of his own Ewiz, or Ewiz down low, and I chose to go Ewiz down low, because in case he wanted to go for a bandit to dash on top of my Ewiz, which is a good play by the way, hence why I kind of just didn't want to risk anything. Because he used his Drill, I knew that I didn't have to counter this Royal Ghost with a Magic Archer, so I decided to use my own Ghost on top of it. And now I'm just waiting to get my elixir back, and then when I'm max I'm going to go Magic Archer in the back, same lane as the Cannon Cart, and if he gives me any more value I could go Pekka on top of that Cannon Cart, which he does. So following that Pekka, I was waiting to see if he'd go Magic Archer or Drill again, and this time he was Magic Archer, so I tried to hold off a little bit to see if he'd give me an Ewiz with that Fireball, but unfortunately he didn't. So I thought I wouldn't get any damage, but then I just take a quick zap and I get a nice Pekka swing, which puts me somewhat back in the damage lead, I guess. Now I had to kite that Royal Ghost back, otherwise I'd get way too much damage taken. And I had that bandit prepared for his bandit, but unfortunately he had a really good tornado, so if he didn't ignore that Battle Ram on the opposite lane, I probably would have lost off that one tornado alone, so I'm glad that he did. Now I have to go Pekka same lane as the lane he's trying to push, because if I don't I could get punished insanely quickly, hence why I go Pekka now. And I could go Pekka higher, but because I knew his Magic Archer was just out of hand, he couldn't punish it too hard with it. Now I had the Fireball and the Ewiz prepared just in case he wanted to go Magic Archer Tornado the bridge, but he didn't, and my bandit on top of the Battle Ram was to predict the Ewiz, but unfortunately I kind of failed. I don't know why I Magic Archered the left lane. I think that was such a crucial mistake that I probably would have won way earlier if I just had chosen to do something safer, but I didn't. I went Pekka on top just in case if he wanted to go for like a tornado or something. Now I went for this Battle Ram immediately, just so that if he does go for a Magic Archer, he can't defend the Magic Archer with like a bunch more spam units. the magic gotcha locks on, he tornadoes it, and I get another lock on, which gives me a fireball, and that's game. Alright, so into the next game against 2.6, which is arguably one of Pekka's worst matchups. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Depending on how good they are, it's how bad the matchup really gets. So obviously I didn't know what you really had, so I'm just cycling cards. I didn't really want to eat a zap on the didn't really want to zap the ice sorry, just in case like he does give me like some skeletons value from him. Now because I knew it was 2.6, you have to overcommit with fireballs. You have to just overcommit like so hard, like as if you're in a CRL game pretty much, just to like not take a single Hulk swing. Like at best you want to take 2 or 3 in single, because if you take more than that it becomes way harder. So again, I'm just keeping my elixir, just trying not to go for like any type of spam on offense, while also not taking too much damage from his chips. I was debating going Pekka for this, but I decided to go for Ewiz Bandit because I could save my Pekka for when he cycles back next in rotation. And again, I was gonna go Battle Ram or something, but you just have to hold in single. So I just had my Pekka ready for his Hog Rider. Now unfortunately that Musketeer does lock onto my tower, so he played that Hog Rider really well because he gets a huge 2000 damage lead just off that one play, which kind of forced my hand into going Magic Archer in the middle for his cannon, so props to my opponent. I should have zapped the skeletons, but I thought the Magic Archer would deal with it, but it didn't. Otherwise I probably would have done a lot more damage had I gone for my Battle Ram like slightly later. Now all I'm doing is just waiting to get my elixir back because I know I have a small elixir advantage, and just hoping, because obviously now we're going back into double, I'm just trying to be patient. His Hog Rider at 0 was just not a very good play, but he does still somehow manage to milk a swing out of it, which was kind of annoying for me. So at this point I was contemplating giving up, being down so much damage and such a hard counter, but I decided to go for like one final Pekka push to see if I could break through, potentially. So you want to really Pekka in the corner rather than in the back, because if you play Pekka in the back they could outcycle you quickly and then Hog Rider, and then they get like 3 to 4 hits instead of like 2 to 3. Against 2.6 I prefer to fireball zap the cannon rather than fireball zap the Musketeer, which I know a lot of Pekka players do. But I do find that to be a bit of a mistake because the Musketeer isn't the real big problem of the deck, since it can't deal that much DPS. Like I know it deals a crap ton of DPS, but it's not enough to make the matchup unwinnable. It's more like the fast cycle cannons just providing infinite value. So anyway, on that fireball I'll just still be patient, still waiting for my chance to break through. But now that I know I was up, I went for another Pekka on top of this Hog Rider. And since I had an elixir advantage, I was pretty confident that I could break through with this push. Again, horrible Magic Archer by me, but it gets the job done enough to use the fireball on the cannon. Now I choose to spam with the Pekka rather than the Battle Ram, because the Pekka had quite a bit of health rather than the Battle Ram, which was just about die, and that decision really does pay off because it ends up winning me the game. Alright, so into this game against Lava Hound, Skeleton King, but Skeleton King is replaced by Barbarians. This matchup isn't very pleasant at all for Pekka, I think. I don't really know, but I just did not like playing this matchup at all. So I don't know what the matchup is just yet, and I was just about to fireball the Tombstone until he played the Flying Machine. I do quite like fireballing Tombstones because in this meta, a Tombstone usually means a Skeleton King, and a Skeleton King usually means a hard counter. So the faster you deal with the Tombstone, the faster like they can't play their Skeleton King, in a sense. Seeing the miner, I knew it was Lava Hound at this point, but I just didn't know what the Baby Dragon was doing in there. So I found that quite peculiar. I tried to zap the skeletons while also hitting the Baby Dragon, but unfortunately one skeleton did survive, meaning that the Baby Dragon just got enough chomps off to take the Battle Ram bulbs out. So we're even right now, and I still don't know if he has Skeleton King or not, so I don't really want to be too aggressive yet. But like seeing that he hasn't played Skeleton King all game yet, I was fairly confident that he didn't have a Skeleton King just yet. But again, you never know with ladder. Since I saw that he had to overcommit, I could go for an E-Wiz, because now we can't go for a miner or say a flying machine to kill it. So I know that E-Wiz will provide me a lot of value if I play my cards correctly. Finally he played his Barbarians, which meant that I have a very good understanding of what his deck is now, so I can play the matchup accordingly. I chose not to zap for the Skeletons because I knew I'd deal barely any damage, and I'd rather, knowing that his Tombstone and his Barbarians are out of hand, support my Magic Archer on a counter push to deal like guaranteed damage, knowing that his Miner was also out of hand. So double ticks, and he's finally I'm finally waiting for him to go Lava Hand in the back. I tried to zap the corner to see if he'd give me a Mega Minion, but I played it a little bit too early. Now I was surprised when he went Lava Hand the bridge rather than Lava Hand the back, because I felt like that was arguably too aggressive, even for my liking. Rather than going Magic Archer in the usual corner or the usual side of the Princess Tower, I chose to go for right in the center, because that way it forces out a miner in the center so that it can't support for the lava pups and it like dies instantly. Plus if he went Flying Machine in the middle, I could fireball it. So I prefer you doing this over Lava Miner. But then against Lava Loon and other like Lava Loon Miner decks and Lava Bait decks, I prefer to go Lava Hand in the corner. No, Magic Archer in the corner, sorry. So yeah, as I said, he goes for that thingy in the middle for Miner, so that I know he can't support it now. So I see that Flying Machine, which means which I was kind of expecting, hence why I delayed my E-Wiz on top of those pups for a little while. So I'm down a bunch of damage, knowing, because obviously like, this matchup is just not very fun at all for me. So I go for that instant Magic Archer on the Tombstone, because even if he went for a Baby Dragon or a Mega Minion or something, it means that now I have a good chance of counter pushing. So I forced out the Miner with that Ghost, just to know that when I go Battle Ram, he will go for his Barbarians, hence why I tried to predict it, but I kind of missed. I was expecting him to play it there rather than right on top of my Battle Ram. Otherwise I probably would have won on the spot. But it's okay, because I've completely messed up his cycle enough such that I could repeat the same thing and this time get more damage. Since I had to go Magic Archer on defense, I needed to go for that Ghost in like the center of the river, just to try and take out his Tombstone, sorry. I mistimed my Bandit on the Magic Archer to try and protect it, so it's a pretty useless Bandit if I say so myself. But again, I'm just going to reset with the Magic Archer and just keep repeating the same process, because each sequence it gets better for me and worse for him, since I'm just going to survive till triple and then out-cycle him with my Magic Archers. That's usually like the plan you want to go against Lava Miner. Again, I failed the protection with the Miner block. I knew he'd go Barbarians, that's why I went Bandit and Fireball instantly. Now I know I'm in a very good spot again, so I just spammed one more time just to force out the Miner, which means my Magic Archer again gets value, and that's what I really loved about this whole sequence. Unfortunately, I did try to predict the Barbarians once more, but it kind of failed. So it's okay. It's not game changing, but if I predicted it, I would have won straight up on the spot, but I didn't. So it was a bit unfortunate. Now that I cycled him, like I said, in triple, that's like the only strat you want to do against Lava Miner. They legit have no, if they had Arrow Zap, it'd be a lot harder to outcycle them, but since he didn't, I knew that I could stack up some Magic Archers, hence why I have 2 Magic Archers at this point. And now that I have 2 Magic Archers, I know that no matter what he tries to spam me with, I just get like too much value out of my Magic Archers for him to do anything. I cycle 1 more Magic Archer, 10 seconds left. I know that all I have to do is Fireball Zap and arrows won't deal enough damage to win him the game, so I just keep spamming Fireball Zap and a very, very close one. Hence the BM. Alright, so into the next match, which is Giant Double Prince. I don't know who has matchup, because Giant players say Pekka has matchup, but Vulcan one time said that they have a hard counter, so again I'm not too sure, but the general gist of playing this matchup is you want to make sure that the princes are out of hand, such that, or you could play a sequence that will give you an elixir advantage just to Pekka in the back. Like if you were to just try and win without going for a Pekka push and single, you probably wouldn't. So yeah, Battle Ram, and I go for the E-Wiz to try and reset the charge, but unfortunately I didn't. So that was honestly just a big waste of an E-Wiz. Thankfully he also played a horrible E-Wiz, so I didn't have to go support my E-Wiz and just make sure that his one died off. Now that both princes are out of hand, like I said, you definitely want to go for your Pekka in the back, such that if he does support just like he does, you can play your Magic Archer right on the tile in front of your King Tower, right there, next to like the Princess Tower. I don't really know what it is, but if you play your Magic Archer there, it splashes onto all three, or like all four, wherever he has down there, it splashes onto all three, so you get like a bunch of value. Now that I had that pretty successful defense off, I chose to support my Pekka with a Battle Ram, which was arguably the bad play, but I thought he might want to commit with like a E-Wiz or like a Prince or something, and I kind of needed that tower, but I probably should have just not done that play because it was honestly a bad play. Now here was my mistake. I completely whiffed that fireball. So if this was double or triple even, I would have lost straight up on the sword, like, because he'd just go Giant, Prince, Mega Minion in front, spam a miner down on top of my E-Wiz, zap the Pekka, and I just like lose. So I'm grateful that I wasn't single. I'm grateful that I was single, sorry. Otherwise I would have just straight up lost. Now I'll go Pekka in the back, anticipating a Prince or a Mega Minion in the corner, because I know that all he wants to do in this matchup, all the Giant player does is just stack up some troops and then just play a Giant in front. So that Pekka does now provide me a bunch of value because he has to go Giant to support it. Now I do kind of mess up my my Royal Ghost, but thankfully he also has to play the Fireball, thinking that I did block it, so my Magic Archer now is surviving. Now that I have a Pekka and I know that I'm one card away from another Pekka in rotation, I cycle a Battle Ram so that I can go for a second Pekka on offense. Arguably the better play was to play in the bridge, but I thought I could get away with the 3 crown here, hence why I played it there. Now that I've forced the Giant Kite, I can just keep spamming with this with these double Pekkas, because they just provide way too much value now, since the princes just don't deal enough DPS. Since that Pekka is still alive, I chose to kill that Giant off to give me a huge counter push. Again, I know that he's broke, so I just keep spamming opposite lane, and once he commits I can spam opposite lane again and repeat that process over and over again. Now that I have a pretty confident elixir and damage advantage, I can go set up for a reset with an E-Wiz at the back. This time I'm going to protect my my E-Wiz, because if he plays a Dark Prince, which he does, I do get value from his Mega Minion and Dark Prince because of my E-Wiz. Now I did expect him to go for that Giant in the pocket, but unfortunately I had to go Fireball on top of the supporting units, otherwise it would have just melted my Pekka and splashed onto the tower, and I would have lost off of that. Again, knowing that his cycle's messed up, knowing that he doesn't have much in hand to commit to this, I could go aggressive with my Battle Ram. Unfortunately I did kind of mess up that the bandit block, but it was good enough because it distracted for half a second to get my E-Wiz one more shot. If the E-Wiz gets like 3 hits on a Mega Minion plus a zap, it does kill the Mega Minion, so it's definitely a very useful interaction against this matchup. Now I'm just relentlessly spamming in both lanes because I know that he's just way too broke to do anything, and it does end up giving me the 2 crown. Now, I don't know if Pekka has matchup, but again, you just want a Pekka in the back in single when his princes are out, and then just try and survive the Giant opposite lane with that Magic Archer tiling, and you're basically guaranteed to win from there. Alright, so into the next game against the same deck I just faced, the Lava Hound Skeleton King, but the Skeleton King substituted for Barbs. I knew this dude was a Lava Hound player, but I didn't know what variation he was choosing this time. So I go for the Bandit Catch, obviously, just to be safe. he does this time opt for the Lava Hound first play. I mean, technically second play, but it was essentially first play. Now, I obviously didn't know he was gonna go Barbarians onto this, sorry, because like I thought it was just like some regular old Lava Loon minor deck with like some Lava Hound. I thought you'd go like Tombstone or Cage or maybe like a Mega Minion. So I probably should have predicted the Fireball, but it's just way too much of a risky play without knowing his deck. And this time I do opt for the Magic Archer in the corner because he just used his minor, so I know I could get value out of playing like this. I support with the E-Wiz because now I can support both of these units with a Pekka at the bridge, sorry. And now that I have this Pekka, it's going to be very, very hard for him to kill my E-Wiz without having to overcommit, which means that my Batarang in the opposite lane will provide a ton of value. Now, he fails the kite with the Barbarians, which means my Pekka does get onto the tower, which is arguably the mistake which cost him the game, because he cannot break through now that I have my tower, because usually I'd have to focus on doing damage against Lava Hound while also not taking too much. But now that I have my tower, I can just cycle Magic Archers in double and just E-Wizzes and he cannot win. Now that Bandit in the center was to kite the Mega Minion from hitting my my Magic Archer, but thankfully it also caught his Flying Machine, so my Magic Archer gets a ton of value again, which is like it's so understated how key Magic Archer is against Lava Hound decks. Like, as much as you think that the E-Wiz is just as useful, I think Magic Archer is the MVP of Lava Hound matchups. So yeah, all I'm doing is just cycling troops, just trying to be patient, trying to create some pressure while also not trying to overcommit so that he has a chance to win. Now this Magic Archer, I was gonna say it's a bit off, but I should have probably played it deeper, but I guess it kind of works out. But if I played it deeper, I would have created it would have been more dangerous for him at least. Now I had to go Fireball on top of that, so I couldn't get the Magic Archer the block off instantly. But again, like I said, you want to be cycling your E-Wizzes, cycling your Magic Archers. If you play a sequence almost perfectly or perfectly, you will always have 2 E-Wizzes or 2 Magic Archers on the field. Depends, against this deck at least. So yeah, now that I know that this, like, I'm basically guaranteed to win, I didn't want to abuse my Zap again. Didn't want to like waste any form of elixir. And then I gave him the Warp Blade. I know that he gives up, so it's GG. So I just Pekka the bridge. I should Pekka the pocket if I really wanted the tower, but I just didn't care. So anyway, that was the same matchup again, so I think that was kind of useful for you guys to see how you deal with Lava Hound in 2 separate ways. Alright, so into the second 2.6 game. Yes, I know, matchups are completely rigged. I don't know why I'm playing 2.6 like twice in one ladder session, but thankfully again I managed to win this one using the same strategy pretty much, which is just don't overcommit. If you have a Pekka on the field, ignore it. This is all going off what Jax's video was pretty much about. If you do overcommit with the Pekka, even if you think that, like, even if the Pekka is like almost full HP, they will always defend it. So there's no point of just wasting elixir trying to hope that your Pekka will kill their musketeer, because it never will. So again, I knew that it was 2.6, so I was again just disappointed with the matchmaking system. But again, I'm just going to try and keep my head in this game and then just focus up, and hopefully I did manage to win this game. I don't know why I'm saying hopefully, but yeah, I did manage to win this game. So again, I tried to predict the Zap there, so I guess that Zap was pretty horrible, if I'm going to be honest. But if it did pay off, I would have done, I probably would have taken tower just off that. But unfortunately it didn't work, so his musketeer does end up getting too much value, such that he could just go thingy in front, an ice golem in front, and if you wanted to go hog at 0. Now I have to go ghost on top of that musketeer, otherwise my bandit dies, and if the bandit dies, then his hog rider, then he can play a hog rider in the opposite lane or same lane. So I didn't want to eat that ice spirit because, like, again, you want to play this matchup like a CRL matchup, so you don't want to take any bit of damage unless it's like log damage, or maybe like an ice spirit first play, or maybe like ice golem death damage. But like, you don't really want to ignore the ice golem, but if they have like a 1 HP ice golem, you don't want to commit a zap to it, if you know what I mean. So play Magic Archer in the strong lane, in my like healthy towers lane, just to force out a fireball. And then now that I force out the fireball, I just cycle a zap. Again, I'm just waiting for him to go Hog Riders, and once he does that, I'm going to just Pekka, and like that E-Wiz was a mistake. I was hoping that E-Wiz would stop him getting the one hog hit, but it didn't. But again, just trying to avoid him getting too much damage until double or overtime. So this time I have to go for a ghost and a fireball, because again I just don't want to be taking these hog hits, because he can get really aggressive in triple, and then it's really just a case of who has more damage or who can sustain. If he can sustain his lead turn. So just playing this magic archer to force out a musketeer or a fireball. Not really there's no intention behind that play at all. This time I do play the E-Wiz at the same time to stop his Hog Rider from getting another hit. Now that he plays musketeer in the center, I know that if he plays his cannon off, I could get a huge fireball zap on top of the musketeer and the cannon. So I do try and opt for that prediction fireball zap, and again it pays off so well, but I really just could not zap that, because if I did zap it, then his Hog Rider would deal way too much damage and he could still defend my battle round barbarians anyway. So I had to kind of let my battle round go, which was a bit of a shame, and he still ends up getting 2000 damage for it. So I'm going to be up slightly, so I know that I could just set up for a Pekka in the corner again. And if he tries to punish me with a Hog Rider, I could just eat up the Hog Rider and then create a big counter push. Now I was kind of surprised when he went for this Hog Rider in the opposite lane, because I honestly just thought that was just a really bad play, on his end at least. This time I was a bit more lenient to predict the fireball again, because I didn't know if he would switch it up, because I know good 2.6 players would like to play cannons in front of their Princess Tower, or cannons right on top of the bridge, or cannons right in the center of the river, rather than just the same play again. So if I had predicted it, I probably would have won on just off that. Now that I see that Pekka's healthy, I have a battle round barb, a ghost. I choose to go bandit with opposite lane rather than with my Pekka this time, because I know he had a horrible cycle to defend both lanes. And now that he used his cannon one lane, I could go thingy and then predict the zap with the skeletons. Sorry, I could go battle ram because he just used his cannon. And now I have a really good damage lead, so all I have to do is just cycle fireballs and I win. So I'm just trying to play super safe, not cycling any Pekkas just so they could overcommit in the other lane. Again, there's my first fireball. I know that a zap doesn't kill it, so if I cycle a zap, it's just a waste of elixir. So I choose to zap on defense for the Hog Rider. And that zap was pretty beneficial, I guess, because it does end up winning me the game. So I do send in the thanks, which is a bit of BM, I guess, because again, it's not a very easy matchup, but if you play the matchup like a CRL matchup and just play it safe and try not to take any damage in single, you have a decent chance in double at least. Alright, so let's go into Graveyard. Graveyard's a hard counter, of course, but it's a very weird matchup. Like, if you know that their tombstones have hand save and you're up like even one elixir, it's enough to win you the game. So I don't really, it's definitely their matchup, but it's very outplayable if they choke it. So again, obviously, if you see a tombstone, assume it's Skeleton King and definitely try and commit to that tombstone. That battle ram was a horrible battle ram on my end, but now that I saw the Barb Barrel and the Mighty Miner, I know that it was either RG or Graveyard. So I choose to zap the Skeleton King just to force out something else from him. Seeing the Ice Wiz, I know that now it's officially Graveyard, but just a very weird variation of it. So I'm just going to try and play it safe. Against Mighty Miner decks, you always want to go E-Wiz right there, or if it's on the right lane, like one tile left in that case, because once it walks to the other way and if they pop the ability, the E-Wiz is still targeting the Mighty Miner, so it just gets a no value and it just wastes the whole elixir trying to do something. Seeing that Graveyard was a bit frustrating because he somehow got so much damage from doing was pretty much nothing, and I was down quite a bit of elixir just because of that whole sequence. Now all I'm just doing is I'm going to commit to the baby dragon, of course, but I'm just going to try and survive single, because in double I could obviously go for the Pekka in the backs and stuff. He chose to try and activate King Tower, but he does end up messing up with this play. So it gives me a nice elixir lead. It gives me a really good elixir lead. Sorry. So instead of going Pekka immediately, which is what one could probably do, and then it might win you the game, I choose to go Battleram first because it forces out the tombstone, which means that I can go Pekka in the back now, like after this whole sequence. Seeing that Mighty Miner, I was like, now I couldn't go Pekka because he might try the same thing again. I do end up choking my Ewiz so hard, but as a benefit he also chokes his poison very hard. So again, I'm getting, like, I don't think I can understate how lucky I am sometimes when it comes to winning these games, because I don't deserve these wins at all, and I think it'll be more evident the longer this video goes on. So yeah, now that I have the Magic Archer, I decide to support it with the Battleram, but he does end up going Baby Dragon on top, so this Battleram was just ultimately a very big waste. He does end up playing the Tombstone, which means it could have been worse for me. Now, I had to go Ewiz on top of this rather than Zap, because if I went for the Zap, the Baby Dragon would get like enough belches or chomps, whatever you want to call it, to kill my Royal Ghost. Because he uses poison, it meant that I could go for my Magic Archer in the behind my King Tower, and it won't die, so I could use it back for offense. Hence why I Pekka in front of it. Now I know what he wants to do, which is cycle back to a poison as quickly as possible to play it on top of my Magic Archer. And because I know that he wants to do that, I could abuse that by going Ewiz in the center. Because I know I can go cycle to another Magic Archer, sorry. So yeah, now that I have this huge elixir advantage, I can just keep spamming him. Seeing that the Ice Wizard is now dead, I can go to pre-anticipate his tombstone, sorry. His Mighty Miner was beyond horrible, so I could just go for an aggressive Magic Archer on top of this Barbarian battle. Because now it also brings it down to a range of 2 fireballs, sorry. Okay, so all I have to do now is just commit with zaps on defense and just getting back to the second fireball as fast as possible. And that zap is enough to buy me enough time to fireball Princess Tower, and that gives me the. So overall, against Graveyard, you want to maintain an elixir advantage. If Tombstone's out of hand and Poison's out of hand, you want to go Pekka in the back, support with Magic Archer, but keep your Ewiz out of range so that it forces out Tornado. And try and predict fireballs for their Tombstones as well, because there's not really any other way to break through sometimes.